Hello and welcome to the Beat LA podcast. We got a good one for you today, folks. Yes, we do. Buckle in because the sun is a little brighter today, even though it's dumping a little bit in San Francisco. But I'll tell you something, the coffee tastes a little sweeter. Why? You know why. It's because it's NFC Championship week, baby, and the Niners are still in it. So let's get to it. My name is still Matt Ferrucci. I'm still occasionally a writer-director who occasionally lives in Los Angeles, and I am joined, as always, in the blue corner, standing 6 feet tall, weighing a svelte 170, the king of the neg, the count of Monty Negdom, Mr. Paul Rule. Paul, how are you?
I'm great, Matt, for everything you just said, including the fact that last week I was a senator and this week I'm a count. I feel like I'm moving up in the world.
I mean, listen, we're going to talk about it later, but I mean, you played a tech executive this weekend.
With
correct?
questionable motives. Yeah. I wore a sweater vest and a khaki jacket, Matt. I should have brought some stills.
Actually, I saw something on the Instajammers, which I was very, very impressed with it. Paul, it's truly great to see you under these circumstances. You know, what a weekend, my friend. I mean, it was touch and go there for a while. Not only was the life of our San Francisco 49ers hanging in the balance on Saturday night, but it felt like it was life or death for this podcast.
We would have survived either way, Matt. But I did take the game very personally when I actually started watching it after a full day of news blackout at 10 p.m. And, you know, I'm doing Damp January, so I didn't have a drink all week. That lasted about 30 seconds into watching the tape-delayed broadcast.
Oh, man. I mean, I was thinking of you. I was at the game, as all of our listeners know. You were texting me. I was trying to start the hashtag Where's Paul, which I think did pretty well. I'm going to tell you something, though, Paul. I mean, thank God we didn't lose, because I'm not a good sport when it comes to my team losing, especially when the stakes are this high. You know, I usually, when our teams lose, Paul, and you know this, we've talked about this, I don't want anything to do with sports for a couple of weeks. No Sports Center. I'm off social media. My go-to line to loved ones is, I don't want to talk about it. Do you experience this as well?
I do, and I would have very much experienced it after this game. They played like shit. They absolutely deserve to lose. We'll get into all the specifics, but the fact they won and the fact that you were there, even though I was watching it, you know, several hours later on tape delay, somehow I felt that your presence and the presence of the BTLA, so we say karma, was going to help our boys get through. And my supreme neg that went into it, I felt really good about my neg. And you'll notice my negs were great all weekend. I was 3 for 4 in the neg category. If I just bet against myself like George Costanza, I would make a lot of money.
100%. You might have run a 3-team parlay this week. You got the 3 out of the 4 correct.
I got 3 out of the 4 correct. From an egg standpoint, I know it's a little confusing. We'll put a chart up on TikTok and you can follow it.
Folks, we're recording this on Monday. I want to excuse my voice. Once again, I'm still getting over that little respiratory cough that's going around. Also, I was screaming my head off.
I was just saying, nothing like going to a football game that you feel like you played in personally to make your voice not get any better.
Paul, just quickly, have you ever had these moments? Like, I do remember, and not to bring up bad things in the past, but I remember when Kyrie Irving crushed our hearts. The Warriors beat the Warriors in the 2016 NBA Finals, and we lost in Game 7. You threw a tantrum for the ages. Am I wrong?
I broke a remote. That's nothing like that Cowboy fan that we put on our feed who smashed his television with his own fist. I didn't do that. I did break a remote, that I'll admit to, and it was not my proudest moment. That was part of where self-help corner really started to kick in, is I realized I needed to do some work on myself, and I'm now pretty zen.
I remember when we lost in 2013, the 49ers against the Seattle Seahawks. It was that game where Richard Sherman tipped the Michael Crabtree ball.
Oh, yeah. Remember it well.
My house was under renovation, and I went to town on a wall with a sledgehammer.
Wow.
The wall was going to be blown out the next day, but it wasn't a good look.
God,
So
I should watch every game in a construction site. That sounds really fun. I've never used a sledgehammer. I remember when the Giants won the World Series in 2010, and I said to myself, I will never, ever get mad at a sporting event again. I finally got the thing I needed. Everything in my life was going to be great from that moment on. And then I broke a remote 6 years later watching the Warriors. So sports does weird things to us.
I think you're downplaying it by saying it was just a remote. Okay. But, that's something we can talk about offline. Quickly, Paul, I want to do a little bit of house cleaning. Folks, before we get into this episode, I just wanted to say to all our loyal listeners, we couldn't thank you more for your enduring support of this show. And to all the new listeners who just found us, there are more ways than ever to listen to the Beat LA podcast. In addition to listening to the show right now on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, you can watch the show, Paul. That's right. You can watch every show in its entirety on our new YouTube channel. Just search Beat LA Podcast to find us. You can also find the link in our Instagram at Beat LA Podcast. Follow us there. We'll follow you back. And follow us on TikTok. The handle is beat.la.podcast. On all three platforms, we loaded up some great bite-sized exclusive Beat LA content you can only see there, like my attendance at the game this Saturday. So wherever you find us, please hit follow or subscribe. Doing so keeps the lights on, and that one little click, Paul, will get us closer, this show closer to what we want it to become. I don't know what that is, but it's going to be fun finding out. So thank you for coming along for the ride. How was that, Paul? Was that concise?
I don't know if it was concise. I wanted to give you a sip of water during it. And also the whole time I'm sitting there going, maybe I should have picked a different shirt. Now that I'm on I'm on YouTube, but I'm going to roll with it.
I
The
like it.
Independent, it's a music venue in San Francisco for those who are playing along. I think I bought it when I saw the Lemonheads like 15 years ago.
I like you in army green though. It's got a little sort of fight the power. It's got a little bit of this, Paul. You
I
know what
should
I'm
have
saying?
worn my sweater vest and my camel jacket. I was definitely channeling Indiana Jones.
I hate Snake Shock! I hate him!
Today's episode, we're recording this, I said, on Monday. It's going to be real streamlined. We're going to recap the Niners-Packers game, preview the game against the Lions on Sunday, then give our predictions for the game, Chiefs-Ravens, and get into the best things we saw. That's it, baby. I mean, let's just jump into Saturday's game.
I want to say one thing. So this is going to be fun for me, and I hope it's fun for the audience. Matt and I talked on the phone yesterday, and I said, don't tell you at the game. Let's save it for the podcast. So I figure Matt and I talk more than I talk to any of my friends anyway. So we're going to basically just have a conversation here about Matt's experience at the game. Matt, tell me about it. What did I miss?
I mean, first off, we had two very different experiences watching this game. We'll get into your experience in a bit, but I went with Beat LA legal analyst Chris Merrill. If you wonder what he looks like, just go to our reels on Instagram.
I was worried you might get stuck. Remember we did a few weeks ago with your friend Mark Freeman, we did, there's a jail in the old Veteran Stadium in Philly. I don't know, is there a jail in Levi Stadium? I was glad that you had legal counsel just in case you ended up in that jail.
I didn't see too many fights, to be honest. Packer fans were pretty docile, although there was this one guy who was losing his fucking mind after we
Packer
were exiting.
fans should absolutely hate the 49ers. You know, we played them 10 times in the playoffs now, and we're on a little bit of a run against them. So you'd think they'd hate us, but they are from outside of Milwaukee, and that's a nice part of the country. People are nice there.
Well, I mean, they exceeded expectations. I mean, Packer fans, I mean, this was gravy for them to get to this point, but to lose like that, no. I mean, like I said, this one guy, he was like pushing 300, and he had
a lot of cheese curds in that part of the world, Matt.
That's true. He had an Aaron Jones jersey on that was just screaming for dear life on his body. And Paul, at one point we were walking, and he just kind of started beating his knees, yelling, "No, no!" I understood. That was a terrible loss.
Maybe that's when he found out they don't sell cheese curds at Levi's. Maybe that's what it's
I had the coldest hot dog ever, though. Levi's hot dogs. Oh, God. Anyway, Paul, when I walked in, I got you a new lobster bib. I want to show.
That's a good friend.
Everybody. It says, do it for the Bay, which I hate that they do this Bay shit.
They're not in San Francisco anymore, but thank you, Matt. Thank you.
Yes. So you can eat lobster with this when the maid decides to do lobster roll Tuesdays.
Unfortunately, we're recording on Monday. I think today it's caviar. I don't know what it is. I got to check the menu.
Maybe a Chateaubriand or maybe a London broil.
Ooh, London broil. That sounds delicious.
The game, Paul, once we got through the gates and we sat down, there was a joyous vibe. But as soon as the game started, man, I mean, the ominous vibes crept in immediately, Paul. I mean, remember 2010, the Giants, torture, right? Wasn't that the slogan?
Oh, yeah.
Torture, baby. I mean, it was very tense in Levi's from jump. The crowd was great, but the game was not fun until the last minute. And as I was watching this game, and it was like this slow arc, Paul, but I was thinking to myself, this is what it must feel like to be pegged. Now, if you don't know what that means, just look up peg meaning sexually, or maybe don't even do that. But that's what it felt like, Paul. It felt like something was going medieval on my ass, like that Ving Rhames scene in Pulp Fiction where he's kidnapped and tortured by those white trash rapists.
Bring out the gimp. I think the gimp's sleeping. Well, I guess you just have to go wake him up now, won't you?
I had no idea that's where you're going. Maybe I should have asked you how the game was before we got on, so I could have told you not to say that.
No, I mean, you got to give the Packers their flowers. I mean, Paul, they won the coin toss and they said, we want the ball.
They did that against the Cowboys too. Worked out nicely.
They had a game plan. I mean, they wanted to receive. Aaron Jones looked like Eric Dickerson's long lost son in this game. And, they played great. It was, the rain wasn't really a factor for the fans. Who really gives a shit about this? But it was one of the most intense games I've ever been at.
I thought you'd be wearing a poncho. I was hoping that Matt Ferrucci would be in a poncho.
Why, Paul? Why would you want to see me in a poncho?
I don't know. I was worried you're going to get wet. You just had a cold, getting over a cough. But no, I don't know how you dealt with it in real time. I had trouble when it was on tape delay. The thing I'd say about that game, and you can tell me more about it because you were there, were people going crazy about how Shanahan handled the end of the first half? Because I almost broke my remote again.
Great question. It wasn't really, it would be more intense for people watching at home because you got the analysts actually talking about it in real time. For us at the game, we were more like, wait, is this what's happening here? Is Kyle Shanahan playing for a field goal? I mean, that clock management at the end was terrible.
Field goal. That's what he was doing. He was playing for a field goal. Yeah.
But that was one of many things. I think at that time he just wanted to play it safe and not give the ball back to the Packers. But Chris and I looked at each other and we were as dumbfounded as anybody. I mean, you were watching. Were you losing your mind on that sort of it's the whole thing about Kyle playing it safe.
Yeah. Okay. But by the way, a guy that I felt like I properly nagged, and I think he benefited from it ultimately, although it took a half, was Jake Moody. Because Jake Moody kicking a 52-yarder in the second half was a massive play, right? We ended up winning by 3 points. But it's like the fates and Mother Nature were mad at Kyle Shanahan for that decision. It started raining, I think the hardest it did all game, while he was sitting there and bleeding the clock and waiting for his rookie kicker to miss a 48-yard field goal. It was absolutely maddening. At that point in the game, I think he had lost a lot of confidence in Purdy. Debo is not in the game. I think he kind of wanted to get in at halftime and regroup, but it was very frustrating. Purdy threw the ball 39 times. He looked so bad for most of that game. Kyle can drive us all a little nutty. I was definitely screaming at the TV a bunch.
Well, in that first half, Paul, I mean, the Packers dominated the game. I can't believe it was 7-6. We were actually up a point. Am I wrong? We were up 7-6 going into.
There were 3 red zone stops, right? I mean, that was amazing. They completely and 2 dropped interceptions that I or you probably could have caught at least one of those by the Packers. I mean, they absolutely should have lost that game.
Well, the big little narrative that was in the news today was Purdy in the glove. Do I wear a glove? Do I not wear a glove? He tried the glove on the first series and he didn't like the feel, but it looked like he couldn't get comfortable all game and that the weather really did affect him.
Well, good news, by the way, we don't want to jump ahead. Weather's going to be lovely in San Francisco this coming Sunday. and the weather will be perfect in Vegas if they can get there inside Allegiant Stadium. So, they dodged about 1,000 bullets here. But anyway, so just in terms of you being there, I'm curious, did you strap vodka to your leg or anything like that?
We didn't strap vodka to the leg. In fact,
That's why they didn't play better, Matt.
Paul, I was completely sober the entire game. I didn't drink until
Holy
post game.
shit.
Yeah, didn't drink till post game. Just quickly to your one glove theory. This is something I've been holding on since pod 3. And I just wanted to say, I'm not a fan of the one glove look. I know that's your bread and butter, and you've been thinking I'm into it. I hate the one glove.
Okay. I mean, you've never used it as a drinking glove. It's also kind of an offhand thing, left hand, you leave your right hand free for other stuff, whatever that might be. And I agree. Maybe he should have had both gloves on. Maybe he would have felt like maybe he felt kind of uneven. His equilibrium was off where he had, he needed to be leveled out in glovedom.
That's a good point.
I understand that Purdy probably likes to go bareback. You said pegging. Can I say Purdy and bareback?
Yeah, no, I already said pegging, which I hope all of your in-laws are looking up right now on the television or on the internet.
Apparently on TikTok we could do racy stuff. Maybe that'll get cut for YouTube, but we'll put it on TikTok as an
Oh, can I say real quick, Paul? I mean, I know we're on YouTube again. My mother watched the episode. My 88-year-old mother, she watched it and she knows you. She's met you. We've been at Giants games together. But it's been a few years. When she saw you, she wanted me to tell Paul I'm in love with him. Tell Paul I love Paul. Because, and I don't know if you want to take it in a cougar way.
I'll take it any way I can get it.
And that's not the only thing. I got a few comments from other people who've seen it. And they've said, man, I really love Paul more now that I can see him and his demeanor and his vibe. It's very inviting. I'm asking you, have you got anything about me from your friends?
Anyone? Class? Anyone?
Yes, Matt. Everyone has said the same thing, basically.
Okay. I was fishing there, clearly.
You were fishing. They've said similar things, I think, or they're going to say them to me.
Your family's going to be like, I think Matt should wear a poncho during the podcast. Can you tell Matt that he would look much better in a poncho?
I had a friend who actually said to me, he said, do you know that you have a face made for radio? That's what he told me. So I guess not everybody agrees with your mother, but they should.
Paul, I just want to say the game itself, we were surrounded by Niner fans, which was great. There were no Packer fans in our section.
Where were you sitting? Tell me. I think you told me you were down towards the goal line. Which goal line?
No, we were 132. We were like at the 5-yard line, right under the awning, which is great. Surrounded by season ticket holders. There was one guy behind me who would not stop talking. A young guy, you can see him in the Instagram reels. He was wearing sunglasses the entire game, Paul. Sunglasses the entire game. He was wearing a San Francisco Giants sweatshirt. He was talking so much. I was like, this guy's clearly doing cocaine.
He was on something. Like the old Jack Nicholson, wear your sunglasses all day, every day.
He was talking to who would listen to him. I mean, literally, it was just a running
about the game, or what was he talking about?
About the game. Everybody. He turned to everybody around him. At the end of the game, when we won, I tackled him and I turned to his wife and I said, this guy never stops talking. And it was beautiful. It was a beautiful thing. But it's always great, those people, that little family you create at a game. You know?
Maybe he was the guy that won the bid for the Kendall Roy cocaine vials.
Great point. Great callback. I love a good callback. Paul, let's get to the Niner positives.
Okay.
Moody. You brought up the Moody kick. When he kicked that, I was literally yelling, get there, because you could see it. He hit that 52-yarder. That was great. Conley, Jennings came up big in place of Debo. Dre Greenlaw is still the baddest man on the planet.
Yeah, with an Achilles injury that he played through, and he decided not to go down after the second interception, and he could have fumbled it in the rain, and the whole thing would have gone into the fucking toilet. Apparently, he and Fred Warner's like, hey man, you got to take it to the house before the game. And Dre didn't give a shit that he had already won the game. He wanted that touchdown more than anything.
Kyle was not happy. He talked about that in the press conference.
I can't tell you how awesome Greenlaw is. I love Dre. There was about 3 seconds where I didn't. I wanted to run on the field and tackle him myself. I wanted him to get down. once he did, then the love came back.
I heard a great point today. The 49ers should have just tackled him, the players.
Yeah. I think you've done that to me at a bar. You should have tackled me before I broke my remote, Matt, if you were a good friend.
Paul, I know this is not usually in your bag, but can you tell me some of your positives you took from the game?
Oh, I can be very positive after the fact. It does because they've already won after I nagged them. I mean, what are the positives? The positives, obviously, the biggest positive is they finally won a comeback under Kyle Shanahan. The first time in 31 games now that they came back from 7 points or more in the fourth quarter. Now, it helped that they scored 3 of those points on the first play of the fourth quarter. So, because that's when the field goal happened. They get 14:56 in the fourth quarter. But they came back and they won a close game, which they hadn't done all year. And Brock Purdy did basically what he did at the end of the Cleveland game, but finished it, where he showed that he can kind of run that final drive with the game on the line. I think, it was a gut check. Nick Bosa talked about it, that they hadn't won a game like that, and they needed to win a game like that. They looked very rusty. They basically had 2 bye weeks. These guys are all creatures of habit and repetition. Even though I'm likely going to nag them against the Lions, I'm feeling pretty good about the coming weekend. So, no, there are obviously a lot of positives. Anytime you win a game like that, I think you feel like you're playing with house money. So that's a great thing going forward.
Yeah, Purdy was off. I mean, we're a different team without Deebo Samuels. Samuel, not Samuels, but Samuel. I did have a therapist named Dr. Samuels years ago. But in the 3 games that Deebo was either injured or didn't play, we didn't score more than 17 points and lost all 3. I mean, this is a different offense without Deebo, Paul.
Well, they're 7-point favorites going into the weekend, and they must think that Deebo is going to play. And I did see today that an MRI came back, and he does not have they're worried that he's going to have a stress fracture in his shoulder.
Yeah, no
fracture. So maybe he will play. But no, they're a totally different team when he doesn't play. Watching Juan Jennings try to run the ball, that didn't seem like that was going to work. And it totally killed their ability to throw under to McCaffrey. They must have been double teaming him on any pass play the whole game. But Purdy looked really bad. I mean, it was driving me crazy. And then Kyle kept having him throw the ball. I was like, what are you doing? I guess maybe he needed to make sure that at the end that he'd gotten his reps in because he hadn't played in basically 2 weeks. But it was very hard to watch. I mean, and then I kept thinking about whether or not it was because Purdy needs different genes. Did you see him walk into the stadium with his cowboy boots and his mom jeans?
Yes,
I love how understated the man is, but I don't know, man. I think he maybe needs a little bit of a makeover. I want him cockier to start the game.
Well, no, let's jump to this segment right now. Nick, can you put the picture on the screen right now so the people watching on YouTube can see what we're talking about? Paul, we're going to analyze this. For those listening, Purdy's outfit, he showed up in brown cowboy boots, blue jeans, a black top, and a beige jacket. Paul, the internet is undefeated, as we know. Some of the stuff they said, I love this one. Is he auditioning for a country music video? And one was said, pay this man, please, because he's only making $870,000 a year. He needs a brand new wardrobe stat. Paul, what do you think he looked like in this outfit?
Look, I love that there's no bling with this guy. I love that his teammates love him. But I do wonder, like I said, he looked a little... I felt like that going into the game that he was distracted, but what he put on made him think his brain was not totally in it. I don't know how to explain it, but like I want more purpose in the pregame outfit.
I get that, Paul. I mean, you've always been a fan of the bling coming in on your athletes. I'm going to tell you what I thought he looked like. You know what he looked like, Paul? He looked like the son of a hot tub salesman.
He does. Wow.
That's what he looked like. Yeah. He looked like what I would wear in the mid-90s if I went to high school in Arizona.
I actually don't care what the guy wears at all, but I did feel there was something about it. Clothes make the man. I just want a little bit more of a confident look. I want a little more of a Don Draper thing going on,
Oh, that's not who he is, though, Paul.
I
mean, you got to be who you are.
He played like that outfit for most of the game.
True. Well, I'm going to defend Purdy a little bit. I just wanted to say a couple of Niner negatives. Number 20, Ambry Thomas had a target on his back. They were just destroying this kid all day. Also, Chase Young couldn't hold the edge. I mean, this was our sort of big trade in the midseason. He was a non-factor, and because of that, he made Aaron Jones look like LaDainian Tomlinson's cousin. The special teams, Moody made that kick, but Moody's got to remember to kick the ball through the end zone.
Is he LaDainian Tomlinson's cousin or is he Eric Dickerson's cousin or son?
Either one, Paul.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The Ambry Thomas thing. So that was when I was the most angry during the game.
Yeah.
I guess what do they call, like, they do this rating at the end of the game. I don't know this stuff. I'm not an analytic guy. 80s, like really good, like 70s, 60s guy. He had like a 30.
He was terrible.
And he did his 2 pass interference plays, both of them. He actually had decent coverage and just for no reason decided to grab the guy. It was like he just knew somehow that either he had money on the game or he knew something bad was going to happen. But it was maddening. And I just kept screaming at the TV, take him out, take him out. And my wife kept looking at me going, can I get out of this marriage tonight or do I wait till tomorrow?
Oh, good. I'm good. I'm glad she keeps you honest like that. Shout out to your wife, Kristen. Paul, you know what I was thinking? It's like in baseball, when you're an infielder and you're just on this tear with errors and you're just like, please don't hit the ball to me.
Right.
And that's what it is. And in baseball, you can take the curse off a glove by cutting the head off of a live chicken.
We need a live rooster to take the curse off Jose's glove, and nobody seems to know what to get Millie or Jimmy for their wedding present. Is that about right?
Are you pausing for the scene from Bull Durham? Or is that Major League in Jobu? I don't know. I've got my
No, it's Bull
movies.
it's Bull Durham. It's Bull Durham.
Okay, but there's also some version of that in Major League, I think, too.
Here's the pitch. Swings and misses.
You should have gotten the live chicken.
But shout out to Chuck Eggert, friend of the pod. I ran to him at the game, Paul. I played baseball with Chuck. He pitched at Loyola Marymount. I see him. I'm like, hey, Chuck, how you doing? And he says, oh, my God, me and Jeff Jaquin were just talking about your podcast. So I just want to shout those guys out.
I thought you were going to say you remembered when you were in high school and you didn't want anybody to hit the ball to you. Weren't you an infielder?
I played second base, Paul. And there were moments where I said, please, God, if there is a God, if you're up there and you have any mercy on my soul, please do not have the ball hit to me.
I felt the same way in my 4 games in right field of Princeton JV baseball.
Oh, Paul, I played cornerback for a second in high school too, and they don't throw the ball in high school. And anytime they would run the wishbone in my direction, a lot of Ole tackling. Please don't run the ball my way. Oh, fuck.
You were Deion Sanders, but without the ability to cover.
Yeah, exactly. Paul, just a couple things I wanted to relate to you. And these are thoughts in my head, end of third quarter, going into the fourth quarter, that whole fourth quarter, when it was the sky is falling and it was very tense for us Niner fans and we were losing in the fourth. These are the 2 thoughts. I already named one of them. I thought the Beat LA pod was over. Chris Merrill looked at me and said, what are you thinking right now? And I said to myself, if the 49ers lose this game, we literally have no content for the next 2.5, 3 weeks. We got to fire the production team we just hired and it's over.
Could be longer than that. The Giants look like a real snooze, and the Warriors had a colossal meltdown at team
tragedy. We'll get there. We'll get there. But this is the other thing. This is how bad it got in the fourth, Paul.
Is that when you said, hey, to try to keep the ratings up, I'm going to start talking about pegging?
No, that just came this morning.
Okay.
Paul. Yeah. Good question, though. In my head, and I'm just going to drop this and let you go, I thought to myself, I wish we had Jimmy Garoppolo.
I had a lot of Garoppolo thoughts during this game where I was like, if you squinted, that was Garoppolo playing quarterback the whole game.
Well, Garoppolo was great at the short check down. He never liked to go over the top. And actually in this game, Purdy, and he did it on the final drive, started to take what the defense was giving him. And he actually talked about this after. He kind of learned a lesson. Take what the defense gives you. I mean, that's Jimmy's bread and butter. But it got so bad. I was thinking Darnold. I mean, this is where I knew they weren't going to do it, but that's where my head was at.
I was going to ask you one more question about being at the game. Well, there are 2 things I want to mention. One, did it get really quiet? Were people super nervous in the fourth quarter? Because you couldn't really tell on the broadcast, but I did. Like I was sitting at home and I just kept drinking. I was doing a shot and a beer by that point, a little rum with a beer back and that kind of thing, and I couldn't speak. I was so nervous and also and very upset. Weirdly, like I said, I was taking the whole game very personally. But what was it like within inside the stadium?
Like I said, the crowd was great, but yeah, they were quiet. I mean, it was very tense. It was like watching a car wreck. We were all very gripped. And for those people who know this feeling, it was like the birds are chirping at 5 a.m. and you've run out of cocaine. That's what it felt like. There was those nerves, Paul.
Matt, do you know what euphoric recall is? I just learned about
Uh-huh.
this term.
Yeah, yeah.
I notice a lot of euphoric recall with you back to your
Listen, when
partying days.
when I'm talking about sports, it reminds me of partying because that's people out there relate. They know. But I'll tell you this: when Anders Carlson,
We should send him a thank you note and maybe some herring. I don't know. Is he seems like he's from some Scandinavian country.
when he missed that field goal, Paul,
Carlson, no!
Chris was watching it live. I was watching the screen. And when it went up and I saw it hooked to the left, I turned to Chris. I said, he missed it. He looked at me and it didn't register right away. I mean, that was so lucky. I mean, if he hit that field goal, we were done.
Done. Okay, the other thing I always like turn things to me is the other thing. If you ever watched in the day of smartphones, have you watched a football game or any sporting event without ever looking at your phone? Because that's the other thing I had to do at like this is like 1 o'clock in the morning by the time this is rolling, and I have like 200 texts on my phone that I can't look at because I don't want to know what happened. And the more texts I got, the more nervous I got because I was like, oh, if the Niners had just fucking taken these guys to the woodshed, I wouldn't have gotten that many texts, right? These were nervous texting from Chris Merrill, Aaron White, Mike Sarkeesian, my buddies, all these guys, right? And I afterwards, by the way, as I'm reading all the texts and seeing just everyone's head explode on my phone, but I had to sit there for over 3 hours and not look at my phone. I feel like I deserve a medal for that.
Very impressive, Paul. I was going to ask you first off for the viewers. Last week I talked about me being at 6 hours and 37 minutes a day average. I've actually gone up. Last week I was averaging 7 hours and 10 minutes a day on my phone.
Don't start a podcast if you want to get your phone used.
But I was going to ask you that you're talking about the intensity in the room, in the stadium. I was going to say, I was getting texts from people who aren't even into football, like Elaine Uwe, friend of the pod, Lakers fan. He had no skin in the game. He was like, I'm watching this. This is really tense for me. And, your Bang Bang Niner Gang text chain was probably the same thing,
Going crazy.
So just to put a button on everything, Paul, I mean,
Yes.
Brock Purdy didn't play great. I just want to defend him really quickly. We all love an underdog story, but the hate that this kid gets from everyone is crazy. I mean, Purdy to me is held to the standard of 10-year veterans when he's ostensibly kind of a rookie. I was telling you, I was watching the Josh Allen Buffalo Bills game. Yes, Josh Allen's a unicorn, but I'm telling you, he can't read defenses. He doesn't change the play at the line. When Kansas City was selling out to stop the run, he doesn't check the play to a pass, and he misses wide open guys. I'm just saying, this kid gets so much hate. We forget he had reconstructive elbow surgery. He's got us to the NFC Championship. The kid's learning on the fly, and he's doing a great job.
I agree with all that. And we made fun of his clothes, and that's not cool. You saw that. I mean, the stat that all of the 8 quarterbacks left in the playoffs last week, 7 of them were first-round draft picks, and he was the only one. He was Mr. Irrelevant. So, no, I would not have blamed Purdy if they had lost. I would have blamed Kyle Shanahan and Ambry Thomas and their special teams that gave up a 73-yard kickoff return and Jake Moody. I would have blamed a lot of other guys before I blamed Purdy. I think that the kid's learning on the fly, and he's still better than Garoppolo, even though he's having a lot of Garoppolo flashbacks. Great
point. And folks, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back with our predictions for the 49ers Lions. All right, we're back, ladies and gentlemen, folks. Before we go any further, we got to shout out our sponsor, Pet Pro Supply Co. Go to petprosupplyco.com for all your pet needs. I know our fan base, Paul, has caviar tastes and caviar dreams. They got a couple of new things that they want us to push. They got cat furniture. They got a cat scratcher thing, designer cat litter boxes, And they have dog-proof furniture. Prevent your furniture from being clawed and destroyed. Get it while you can. It's a hot item. I talked to Pet Pro Supply Co. earlier this morning. Get that gift for a loved one. PetProSupplyCo.com. Use code BEATLA for 10% off.
I need to get a pet. I really want that cat backpack from last week.
Well, Paul, really fast. Why did you missed the game because you were acting? How did that acting experience go? You were in a film. You did a little cameo. You want to tell the viewers because people want to know how was that experience?
I thought it was good. We get the footage back. Maybe we'll put it up on our YouTube channel. I was a little rusty. I was like the Niners. Okay. I felt a little rusty. I hadn't been doing a lot of acting recently. They used a lot of like a smoke machine to kind of give it like this moody vibe. So I spent like 8 hours in like a smoke machine area. So I was a little coffee and kind of sinusy the next day. Doesn't sound very exciting. I didn't have a trailer. You were right. There were a lot of, I had to sit on a milk crate. They did offer some free pizza. That's about it. I had a makeup person. That was fun. They kind of did some stuff with my hair. I like that. We did that for the podcast. Other than that, it was a nice experience, man. I would have rather watched the game. And if my performance sucks, it's because I was totally distracted by the fact that I was missing the 49er game.
If you could describe your style of acting, what actor would be the comp of your style of acting?
Well, I don't know. That actor probably didn't get a lot of work, because I don't exactly. I am in SAG, but I haven't become a big star, as you know. That's interesting, Matt. I studied Meisner. I was kind of a method-y actor for a while, and then I went more into what I would call the realm of just imagining things as if, who is that actor? Kind of a male Meryl Streep is sort of how I see myself.
I was going to go with more of like a young Dennis Quaid or maybe like a Tom Berenger type of thing.
Tom Berenger. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. He also was in Major League.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. All right, Paul. Lions, Niners this weekend. The Detroit Lions are coming to town, baby. This is the first time we've played the Lions in the playoffs since 1983. The game we won 23-24. The Lions, they're looking for their first.
We won 23-24?
Yeah, Joe Montana hit Freddie Solomon for a go-ahead touchdown, and then kicker Eddie Murray missed the game winner.
So we won 24-23.
Excuse me, 24-23.
That's the score correct. I picked last week for the Niners to lose.
The Lions are looking for their first road playoff win since 1957 when they beat the 49ers at Kezar Stadium.
This is excellent research you did, Matt. So 57, they won a road playoff game. 83 was the last time they played the Niners and they lost. Okay. All right.
And here's one last tidbit because you love the tidbits. Next Saturday, this Sunday's NFC Championship game will feature the draft's #1 overall pick in Jared Goff and the draft's last pick in Brock Purdy. So we have a #1 and a Mr. Irrelevant.
Well, clearly that's never happened.
We came out as a 7-point favorite. The line's already gone down to 6.5.
Okay.
51 over under. Paul, how do you see this game? You want to bring it on, baby.
I did this last week, my Karnak hat. I'm going to put it back on. We all know what I'm doing here.
Give it to me, baby.
By the way, I thought the Lions looked lousy yesterday. I thought the Buccaneers are not very good. I thought they kept them in that game. Everything tells me that the 49ers are going to win this game, except for the fact that I don't roll that way, Matt. So I'm picking the 49ers, unfortunately, or fortunately for them, to not win the game. I think the Lions are going to take it. The Lions are a team of destiny, and I think the Niners revealed themselves, particularly if Debo doesn't play, as a team that isn't as good as they are. They've done two things that you could be worried about. They have a rookie kicker, and that's going to come back and bite them at some point in these playoffs. And as much as we like Brock Purdy, I still feel like at some point he was going to be Cinderella or whatever it is that turned into a pumpkin or glass slipper or some fucking thing. So I'm going against my Niners. I have to do it. Sorry, Matt. Do you need a score?
Yeah.
I did the same score last week. I'm going to go 24-23 the other way.
Lions over the Niners.
Yeah. And then they'll be tied this game and the 83 game. They'll have exactly the same number of points.
Got it. I love it, Paul. Thank you for doing your job. All you other Niner fans out there, I'm going to bring what you want me to bring. I think Debo's going to play because there's no hairline fracture. They're going to shoot him up. It's going to be numb. I mean, he'll be out there if for no other reason to be a distraction. Purdy's going to be fine this week. The weather's not going to affect him. It's supposed to be 68, sunny, and dry. It's going to be a big week for our defensive coordinator, Steve Wilkes, trying to slow down this Lions top 5 offense. The 49ers will have their hands full. Our offense is going to have to put up points, Paul. And it's going to come down to Brock Purdy's arm because the Lions, Paul, have the number 1 rushing defense, but they have a bottom 5 secondary. So buckle in. It's going to be Purdy once again throwing 39 times. This is going to be a remake of last week, and hopefully we can hold on. We're going to have to put up 30 points. Niners win 21-27. But folks, definitely take the Lions and -6.5 if you're betting. There it is, Paul. Niners win 31-27. You got them losing 24-23.
Okay. People should listen to you because you actually make real picks, and I make picks that are basically based on me being nervous that my team is going to lose and that we're going to have no content on the Beat LA podcast for like 2 months. So,
hey, Paul, there's another reason we're going to win, and I wanted you to get your take really quickly. Have you heard about this Super Bowl logo conspiracy theory that's gone viral on social media?
I don't spend 7 hours a day on my phone, Matt, so no, I haven't heard about it.
So the Super Bowl logo comes out mid-season every year, Paul, okay?
Okay.
And you can tell who's going to be in the Super Bowl based on the colors of the Super Bowl logo. So last year, the Super Bowl logo was green and red.
It's like the Madden thing. Whoever's on the cover of Madden gets hurt.
Well, kind of, sort of. But last year, the Super Bowl logo was green and red. It was the Eagles and the Chiefs. The year before that, it was orange and yellow, Bengals, Rams. And apparently this has been the case for like 85% of the time. Guess what colors the Super Bowl logo was when it came out midseason this year, Paul? Red and purple.
So it's going to be Niners, Ravens?
You got it.
Interesting. Do you realize the 2 teams that are, I know you realize this, the 2 teams that are left in the AFC are the last 2 teams to beat the 49ers in the Super Bowl. Actually, the only 2 teams to ever beat the 49ers in the Super Bowl, because the 49ers have never lost a Super Bowl until they lost to John Harbaugh in the Harbaugh Bowl in 2012. Wow. Okay. Look, man, I love shit like that. That to me is like, that's energy healing. That's like some fucking numerology voodoo shit, you know? So I hope you're right, and that's hopeful.
Paul, best Detroit movies. I'm just going to put this out there. We don't know what's going to land in the pod. Best Detroit movies. I got 5 for you. And I love doing this. I love teeing you up here. I'm going to give you 5.
I literally can only think of 1. Okay, keep going.
RoboCop.
Oh, yeah, RoboCop.
RoboCop, Narc with Jason Patrick and Ray Liotta.
Okay.
Out of Sight, Steven Soderbergh film.
A movie that made George Clooney a movie star.
True Romance or Beverly Hills Cop.
True Romance. Wow. That was
Yeah.
in Detroit. Wasn't really in Detroit. Wasn't
The
mostly in LA. The start, he comes from Detroit.
The first act of the movie takes place pretty hardcore in Detroit.
Yeah.
Same with Beverly Hills Cop.
What was the last one?
Beverly Hills Cop.
Beverly Hills Cop. Right.
Yeah.
It's funny how they all end up in LA eventually, though. They leave Detroit and they go to LA.
True. Very true.
To beat LA like a drum.
I'm going to go with Beverly Hills Cop for me.
You got to go. They're doing a remake. RoboCop was pretty good. I had Peter Weller, Paul Verhoeven. Is that who the director was in RoboCop?
Sounds about right.
RoboCop was good.
Folks, we're going to be right back with the best things we saw. All right, folks, we're back. We're going to do the best things we saw, but we forgot something quickly, Paul. Ravens Chiefs, do you have a prediction on that game?
I'm trying to figure out who I want to neg more because I hate both those teams for reasons previously stated.
Same.
Who do we want to, if the Niners were lucky or we're lucky enough to win, who do we want to play? I'm more worried about the Ravens. I think the Ravens are better, but I'm worried about both teams. Anyway, I think that the Ravens are going to win. I think they're a better team. They're home. I think Lamar Jackson got the monkey off his back by winning and playing well last weekend. I think the Ravens are going to win. I think they're going to win by, I don't know, a touchdown.
I hear you, Paul. Ditto what you said. I hate both teams very much. Here's where I'm at. Part of me wants to see the Ravens again because we've already played them. And so we have a little bit of a playbook on them.
I thought
Okay,
about that. It's hard to beat a good team twice in a season. That's the other thing I'd say. Yeah.
But there's also something to what you're saying, Paul. I don't know if I believe in this Chiefs team. I think this Chiefs team has a little bit more holes in them. I don't know. I think what I'm going to do, I don't know who we're going to play. I don't care who we play. I want revenge on both teams. I think the Chiefs are going to win just because the NFL script writers want Taylor Swift to get to the Super Bowl, to have Taylor Swift in the stands. The fix is in. Take it to the bank. Bet the Chiefs, and you'll thank me come next week.
What about the purple in the logo?
I hear you. I just think they didn't know that Kelsey was going to start dating her.
Maybe they changed the logo. It's red on red.
It's going to be red on red, baby. All right, we're back, folks. We're going to do the best things we saw. Before we do that, we're a Bay Area podcast. Obviously, we love Bay Area sports, and Paul and I are diehard Warrior fans. And we just wanted to give a quick shout out to the Warriors. They lost their coach, assistant coach last week, Dejan Milojevic. He was an assistant coach the last few years, really well liked. He was 46 years old. He had a heart attack, cardiac arrest, and passed away. It was really sad for the Warriors. They postponed their last two games. It stinks all around as Warrior fans, Paul. I just wanted to maybe take this moment, Paul, quickly to tell you, like, it kind of puts things in perspective always. It's funny where those things come from. It took me a long time to figure out I should see the doctor every year, and I'm glad I do that now. So all our male, middle-aged Beat LA fans, get that physical and get checked out because we don't want to lose anybody. Paul, can you save me from this?
Yeah, I'd like seeing this side of you, Matt. Anyways, it also just reminds it, like we were just bagging on the Warriors, maybe less on the podcast and more just when we talk. We're kind of been avoiding talking about them because they're shitty and we like to bring fun things out in the podcast, like the 49ers being good. But boy, it's hard to get mad at the Warriors at this point. And, they talk about it, just a brutal season they've had. Now it's tragedy on top of it. But no, there's no way out of it, man. It's sad, but it also should put into perspective that I won't be breaking my remote watching a Warrior game for the rest of the year. That's for sure.
So that, Paul, was the worst thing of last week, clearly by a mile. Let's get to the best things. We saw a segment that people who are fans of this show, sometimes they just fast forward, Paul, and go right to the best things at the end. So let's give it to them. Do you want to go first this week? Do you want me? Do you got something? What do you got?
Well, you went first last week, so I think it's important that we alternate. Now, unfortunately, I've been watching a lot of tennis because it's the Australian Open right now.
Yes.
And we've talked a lot about tennis, so I'm not going to say the best thing is tennis. Although you watch some tennis this weekend, stay up late. I'm sure Djokovic is going to be in the finals because he always is at the Australian Open. And if he wins, he will win his 25th major, which will be the most of any man or woman all time. I think it's important to watch greatness. We will not see his like again. But what have I been watching? That's what I'll tell you, Matt. And I think we've mentioned on the show before, but I'm very much enjoying the third season of Slow Horses. I don't know if you're a slow horse guy. I don't know if you and I.
Oh, big slow horses guy.
Everyone knows how much I like watching things with subtitles, so I can read them and I don't have to actually listen. And it's a good subtitle show. I think it's the most authentically written English show. They say things like pegging, but maybe they mean something else. Anyway, this season of Slow Horses is kind of their biggest action-y version. I think the budgets are the highest. Anyway, it's been very enjoyable with good cliffhanger episodes. I'm about halfway through. So if you're Gary Oldman, anytime I can see Gary Oldman act, I will find him. And I actually quite like the weird Mick Jagger song that they play. I miss a time when there were songs at the beginning of TV shows that, kind of like the Sopranos song or the Cheers song or whatever. There's something about it that just feels like good old school entertainment. So check out Slow Horses.
Slow Horses is great. Speaking of Gary Oldman, you got a little young Gary Oldman, Paul.
Yeah, I'll take that. My only complaint about Gary Oldman on this show is, they kind of did this like Columbo thing with him where he wears like the same raincoat in every episode.
Yeah.
And the raincoat is so dirty. He looks like a homeless guy. And I'm kind of like, would he really be wearing a raincoat that's that dirty?
Hey, his character doesn't give a fuck, Paul.
He doesn't give a fuck. He farts a lot. He does a lot of other things that we all.
Yeah. Oh, hey, speaking of that show, speaking of that show, English Patient, Kristen Scott Thomas, is that her name?
Kristen Scott Thomas, yeah.
Still has her fastball. And I mean that both ways, as an actress and aesthetically.
Wow, that's cool, man. I like that you went there.
You don't even want to co-sign. Yeah, no, Kristen Scott Thomas. If I saw her at a bar, I'd say, hey, what's up?
Yeah, yeah. And last thing I'll say, before I went and did my acting this weekend, I watched an episode of Slow Horses, and Jonathan Pryce, who is a fantastic actor, go see The Two Popes, go see the Bond movie he was in. He's just a wonderful, aging English actor. And in this scene I was shooting, I was sitting at a desk the whole time, and I can be kind of fidgety. You guys watch me on the podcast. Jonathan Pryce sat at this desk or table and did his scene without moving. It was the most it was an acting lesson. And anyway, I tried to take that into my scene the next day.
I love that. I love that, Paul. The tricks, you put things in your bag. That's great. That's
Tricks of
great.
the trade, baby.
Yeah, Paul, I love Slow Horses. I'm going to bring you mine. And I mentioned this before on the pod, Fargo. Now, I've recommended it. I recommended it in passing, and I'm going to recommend it season 5 now, because the season finale was last week. And it was, if there was ever a show that you needed to binge, Paul, and just stream all the way through, it's Fargo. Season 5, it's a great crime noir, quirky, experimental. But this show, this season 5, is a wonderful ode to the 1996 film with William H. Macy. It's an anthology, folks. Season 5 takes place in a vacuum. Each season tells a different story. But Fargo, I love. It puts regular people in situations against forces beyond their control. There are no spoilers here, Dave Tenenbaum, so you can keep listening. Season 5 stars Juno Temple from Ted Lasso.
Ted Lasso, yeah.
As a housewife in Minnesota, but don't let the appearance fool you, Paul. She's a tiger. Her bitch mother-in-law is played by Jennifer Jason Leigh as this billionaire owner of,
I like that.
billionaire owner of a debt collection agency. And then John Hamm as an abusive husband, violent insurrectionist named Sheriff Roy Tillman. It's a wonderful show that skewers American politics and the American dream, and what evil can look like, Paul, in today's world, but also how forces of good can combat that. So, folks, you can stream it on Hulu. Season 5 of Fargo. You will thank us later.
It's my next show, Matt, and in part because I listen to all your recommendations. I think it's interesting what a career John Hamm has ended up having after Mad Men. There was a part of me that wondered, was he going to kind of, God rest his soul, kind of go the James Gandolfini route after Sopranos, where kind of typecast, kind of you weren't really sure what kind of actor he was, and he started popping up in things like Bridesmaids and being very funny. He's really had quite a career. He was the new Fletch, which is actually a pretty good airplane movie if you want to check it out.
I loved Fletch. Fletch was great.
And he's now doing this animated comedy on Fox called Grimsburg about like a private eye that I read looks pretty funny to me. So John Hamm, way to go, John.
There it is. Shout out to John Hamm. If you ever want to come on the Beat LA podcast, we'll have you.
Maybe. We're getting pretty popular, Matt, but sure.
Okay, gotcha. That's it, folks. That is this week's show. Cross your fingers. If you love the 49ers, that means you love this podcast. And this podcast only lives if the 49ers make it to the Super Bowl.
That's not true. You doomsayer. We're going to make it either way, Matt. But I will tell you, last week I did feel like that I'd never cared more about a game in my life. It felt very personal. But yes, we'll survive either way, Matt. It's just sports.
Any shout outs?
Just to you for being our correspondent, on-site correspondent, sending some great videos our way. A couple blew up the internet, Matt. That final shot you did of them scoring the touchdown.
Hopefully you'll be there with us. We're going to try to go to the game this weekend, folks.
I plan. Unless I get some acting work again, I'm doing everything I can to be there, Matt. The ticket prices need to go down, or Pet Pro needs to maybe pay for the ticket. But
well, Paul, we did sell out of the Phantom Beat LA merch, so we're going to have more Phantom merch available. Find us in the parking lot right by the Great America roller coaster.
Can't wait. It's going to be a great week, Matt. Anyway, good work going there. And let's go Niners. Come on, man. Go follow the neg right to glory.
Hey, folks, until next week.
Beat LA.